Hi, I'm Andrew Fleming, a reporter at the Vancouver Courier, and I'm sitting here today with my esteemed colleague, photographer Rebecca Blissett. Rebecca had a rather interesting photo challenge this past week. She was required to shoot the World Naked Bike Ride. If you're unfamiliar with this annual event, a bunch of naked cyclists basically take over the city, and Rebecca was charged with photographing it. What can you tell us about it, Rebecca?
Well, there were a lot of naked people on bikes and rollerblades and skateboards, and they took over the city, much to everybody's more or less delight and surprise.
Okay, now I would imagine it must be a bit awkward because here these people are. They're naked. Obviously, they're comfortable with their bodies being in public, but it must be a bit odd being there with you with your fancy camera gear. What kind of reaction do you get from people?
Well, initially at first, because it seemed like there was more photographers than cyclists, and there were probably about 80 to 100 cyclists, I decided to actually take off my long lens to differentiate myself from being, a bit of a voyeuristic, where is this going to end up kind of thing. So I put a short lens on and interacted with the crowd a little bit. And it was a very interesting experience because, there's naked people. You want to not be... I was going to say pervy, but I don't know if that's appropriate.
As a media outlet, too, that's kind of a unique challenge because it's an annual event. It's something that, you can't ignore it happening, but at the same time, you can't really have floppy bits on the screen or in the newspaper. So you must have had some rather... by taking a lot of photos, and you would only be able to keep some of the more tasteful ones. Is that how it worked?
Oh, that's exactly how it worked. There were a lot of people who were, please take my photo. And they'd turn around and they were completely naked. And I did. I had obviously no problem with that, but I was thinking to myself, this will never appear in print just because of the nature of our newspaper. Families read it. Little kids read it. But there were some ways around it where, you could get a nice bike handlebar in front of the lower end of the body. Women's breasts were a little harder to cover up, but some of them had long hair. There were far more men than women, I'd have to say. And a lot of the women actually had pasties or they had body paint to cover themselves up.
Yeah, I understand it's not just about the exhibition. There's a lot of people. It's more an event. And I believe it started here in Vancouver. It was the Work Less Party about 10 years ago they started this. I mean, there have been other naked bike rides in other cities, but this is the first one that's a world naked bike ride, and it is now spreading to other continents and all the rest. Do you know much more about that? Or?
I know a little bit. It's something that happens in a lot of cities across the world, and it started as the World Naked Bike Ride in 2003, and it's something that there were naked bike rides in forms of protests against war and so forth, but now it's morphed into this protesting against oil consumption, which some people do say it is a cause for war and so forth, but it's basically to get the awareness out that cyclists are part of traffic, and it's a critical mass or a critical ass, as they like to call it. And it's basically awareness against those kinds of things.
Okay, well, there you go. The story uncovered on the World Naked Bike Ride. Thanks, Rebecca.
Oh,